Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this. Hello! Welcome back to another episode of Be Your Best You with Tash
And Becky.
Welcome. So today we have an interesting topic. We are going more on the psychology vibe side, aren't we? Having said that though, inner child does dip into the kind of spiritual, kind of less tangible physical world, because it's almost like you're dealing with something that doesn't actually exist anymore. But actually, it really, you'll find out after this episode that it really does exist.
Yeah.
It exists more than you think and is more physical and tangible than you would actually think, which is why it's so important to deal with it.
Yeah.
Have I said what it is we're talking about?
Well, you just say
Did I say inner child?
Yeah, quickly.
So yeah, inner child. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's something like I could talk about all day.
Yeah.
Because I do it in my work day in, day out.
Everything relates back to that.
Everything I do, like the main transformational work in the therapy side of things, for me, is the inner child work, the revisiting the past and healing the inner child. The reason we revisit the past is to heal the inner child and take understandings from that and reframe those memories to help that inner child come out of the event in a more empowered way. So let's just dive straight in then, shall we?
Yeah.
So the inner child gets bandied around quite a lot now, doesn't it? It's become quite popular, which is good. Like that's not a bad thing at all. It's really good. I think it's definitely becoming more mainstream, isn't it?
Yeah, but do people really know what that means?
Exactly. That's why we wanted to do this episode, wasn't it? Because I think, well, I know from before I started really doing this work and understanding about inner child therapy, I would just hear stuff like, oh, my inner child wants to do art, or it was like in that kind of context. Oh, what my inner child wants to play. I'm unleashing my inner child. Do you know what I mean? It was almost used as a way to just say, oh, I'm having some fun.
Yeah.
and that actually is so important. That's another side of it. You absolutely do
have to listen to that inner child,
because I think this is why so many of us are disconnected from fun, from ourselves. It's why we're all kind of just going along in this kind of like hamster wheel of life, doing the things we have to do as grown-ups. But actually we have, as I said at the beginning, we all have this inner child living within us right now, and it just wants to have fun. And when you do that, when you address that, life gets so much more joyful.
That's really when it sort of turned around for us, didn't it, a little bit on our spiritual journey, when we were like, we almost went back to that childlike imagination and the magic, wasn't it? And
the magic, wasn't it, for us?
Let's start noticing the magic. Because it had gone, hadn't it? So that's a really good point to how to look at the inner child stuff. It's not necessarily, there's a whole fun side of it as well. The current one that's living within us now, not necessarily our old inner child from the past.
Although they're kind of one and they are one and the same, but it's
staying connected to it now.
And it's just, I think you really just need to I lost my train of thought there. I don't know what I was going to say.
Well, we were talking about like the fun and the magic, how
the magic, like it's going to be different for everyone. For us, the magic really spoke to us, didn't it? Because I remember we were kind of talking about like the fairy tale, when we used to read fairy tales when we were kids. And I used to read Enid Blyton books. I was obsessed with Enid Blyton books, and it just gives me such a warm feeling. Like back then magic was real. As a young child, it was real. And when I started getting back in touch with that whole the magic is real feeling from going into the spiritual journey, because that it evokes the same feelings as when I was reading that book as a child, I realised, I was like,
that's been missing.
Yes, that's been missing. It's like this whole, I've got to be an adult and everything is heavy and boring and stressful, and like there is no magic. We suck the magic out of life as adults, don't we? Because that's what we're as we grow up, we're told, oh, get in the real world, be realistic, you know, that get your head out of the clouds, that's never going to happen, kind of thing.
Life shit, then you die.
Exactly. and like you said, going back to the whole imagination thing, as we grow up, we stop using our imaginations. But as I have said millions of times before, your imagination is so powerful. It's one of your most powerful tools that you have naturally. It's at your fingertips, because our imagination is the way we contact and connect with and speak to our subconscious mind. And if you haven't realized by now from listening to all these podcasts, getting in touch with your subconscious mind is everything.
I feel like that's what it's all about. This is what we've come here to discover, to see. It's like the whole game thing, isn't it? We've been put here to play this game, and let's see who can figure it out. And I feel like that's one of the biggest elements, is getting in touch with your subconscious mind.
100%.
How powerful that is.
100%. Because you get back control, don't you? But like, you know, going back to the magic, for us, that was just a massive part of our journey, wasn't it? Because when and this is how, like we say, you know, the whole reason we started this podcast is because we wanted to hit the psychology, but we also wanted to hit the spiritual, because we found that it's so intricately linked, and you can't have one without the other.
No.
And when you're aware, I mean, and it will still happen, but when you're aware of both sides working together, things happen a lot quicker. You get clarity and you get understanding and you get results quicker when you realize this. So I think that was the thing, when we kind of started working on our inner child and just following the fun and following the magic, it then opened a whole new gateway for us to really dive into that spiritual world. It kind of accept it, have fun with it,
and raised our vibration.
Exactly.
So of course, then that's a winner, isn't it?
Well, you feel good. Like life got fun. Truly, we would just be like, oh, excited to be in the day and see what magic the day would hold. And like you said, that right there is raising your vibration, and that's only a good thing. And that kind of has follow-on effects for all the tough inner work that you're doing on the kind of personal development journey as well. So again, that's kind of gone on like a tangent, as in that's one side of the inner child. Like really unleashing your inner child. And I suppose while we're talking about this, you know, this is what I kind of touch on in my 6-month program. So my longer program, which involves all the kind of manifesting your future as well. A huge part of that manifesting section is about finding out what actually makes you happy and what makes that inner child within you happy. Because if you don't know that, how can you look to find happiness if you actually don't know what makes you happy? And it's unbelievable how many people don't know what makes them happy. I know I didn't. I had no idea, because we're also walking around so disconnected from ourselves, and for the reasons we've just kind of explained. You know, we lose the fun as we get older. It becomes less of a priority, when actually one of my mantras that I live by and that I wake up every morning, and when I'm setting my intentions, when I'm still in that kind of like hypnotic state, one of my mantras I will say every morning is, today I follow the fun. Show me how I can follow the fun. It's one of my cornerstones that I live by now. And that's mental. Like, you know, when I think of all the goals I've got, like all my business goals, all the goals I've got for my life, all the things that I want to have to happen, I don't say any of them before I won't even think about them before I say, like, my overarching goal is to follow the fun, because I know that when you do that, magical things happen for the reasons we've said, you know, like you raise your vibration, you put yourself in an open state of expecting. And so when you're having fun and you start like embracing that, you start opening yourself up to receiving these like miracles, like I like to call them, like the little synchronicities, the little things, opportunities that kind of come at you from nowhere and you're not expecting it. When you're living in that zone, I suppose, that's when you really are open to being able to manifest and create all these desires that you want, that you just don't even know how you're going to get, or if they seem possible. But again, linking that back to the inner child, that state of being comes from understanding what your inner child needs. So one of those questions that I will kind of ask, and the thing we'll dive into in the 6-month program with my clients, is what makes you happy? And they usually say, I don't know. I'm like, right, okay. So when you were a child, what did you used to like to do? Like, what did you find was fun for you? What were you good at? What came easily to you? What were you drawn to? Oh, people can answer that straight away. And I'm like, right, you need to do that now. You need to do it right now. I promise you, like, that's a start. And, you know, for the most part, that's it. Like, that gets you in the zone, and then you can kind of like find what you want to do from there that might be more relevant to your adult life. But honestly, most people, the answers that they give me are like, well, I enjoyed imaginative, creative play. I loved playing outdoors. I loved it when I was barefoot outside running around. I loved the woods. I loved being at the beach. I loved being by the water. Brilliant. Go back there. Go do it. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It's just all the stuff we don't prioritize though. So that's one way. Excuse me. That's one way of kind of working with your inner child. That's more of a conscious, like a conscious thing, conscious work for your inner child, and it's really, really important. And I think it's a brilliant first step, actually, definitely. Because if you can get in touch with that kind of inner child in terms of that fun way, it's going to open you up to being able to do the work, as we said. And so right now then, I suppose it's really important to say your inner child isn't just a context, like a concept that we're talking about in terms of, oh yeah, your inner child wants to play and have fun. It goes a lot deeper than that. You are living a lot of the time as that past child version of yourself. A lot of your behaviors, a lot of your thoughts and feelings are coming from that younger version of you. So he or she is still within you now, more than you can ever imagine. And most of the time, the things that trigger you the most in life, especially the things that you don't necessarily even realize are triggers, depending on how much work you've done for yourself. You know, so say, like, for example, if you are having an argument with your partner, and that feeling of, you know, the confrontation makes you feel really anxious, that is more than likely going to be triggering your inner child in some way. You know, if you are having trouble with your children and they are making you feel like you want to strangle them and you can't contain your emotion, your anger, and you kind of just go rah at them, and straight away afterwards you're like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. That there will be triggering something from your inner child. And anything in your life. And like I said, you might know that they're triggers, you might not. It's all triggering your inner child. And what I mean by that is that at some point in your past, as a child, you've gone through an experience or a trauma. And again, what we've spoken about trauma in other episodes, but trauma is not based on, like, you don't judge it on what's actually traumatic in the event. So many different things can be traumatic. It's how your body reacts to that event. It's how it feels at that time. And that can be different for everyone. And it doesn't have to be the typical big T traumas that we all think of when we say the word trauma. It's just how your body reacts to it. So all these things are happening when you are a child, and if that triggers a trauma response in you and your needs weren't met at the time and you made meaning out of that event, that is going to stay with you for the rest of your life. until you address it and work on it. Yeah. So let me kind of try and think of an example. I've
sort of got one. I think.
Perfect.
Like you say, it's just little T, but I'm anxious about being late to something, and it was always very stressful in my house as a young child. Getting out of the house, getting into the car, we were always late. I was the youngest one, and I'm ready. So I'm just sitting there waiting for everybody else, and it was always a big drama. And I'm sitting there getting anxious about being late. So now I've taken that on. So now every time we're running late for something, I'm getting very anxious and stressed and shouting at people.
Perfect.
And it's just a small thing, isn't it? That you would not think that's not a trauma.
No.
But it's just how I'm sitting there reacting as a child and taking it through.
Exactly. And now before you had, done all this kind of work that we've done, you would never have sat there and thought, when you're getting like anxious and stressed and angry about being late, that would ever have something to do, with reactivating a trauma from your childhood.
No, that's right.
And because of that, you're just like, well, for goodness sake, I don't want to be anxious.
Yeah.
Like, why can't I just stop it? But you have no idea why you're behaving like it, so you can't stop it.
That's right.
Or also, you might just think, well, this is just who I am. I'm just an anxious person. I don't like being late.
Yeah.
I'm an anxious person.
Yeah.
When actually now that you can say, I don't like being late because of what you've just explained.
Yeah.
You can reframe it in your mind.
Yes.
In whatever way you want, you can tell yourself, well, I'm not a little girl anymore.
No.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm in control now.
Yeah.
I'm in control. I can be calm. There's plenty of time. If there's not, I will do this, this and this. It's okay. We're safe. You don't have to worry anymore. You're now in control. It's very much about little Becky was not in control at that point.
Yeah.
And so she was just feeling the anxiety.
Yeah.
And probably picking up on everybody else being stressed and anxious.
Yeah.
Your mum, maybe, or your dad, you were picking up on their feelings as well. And so you made that mean something about you, but actually it had nothing to do with you.
No. And because I'd look at my brother today, one of them, and he's always late for everything. But he's not ever stressed about it. He doesn't care.
No.
Gets away with it every time. Yeah. It's like he's not taken that on at all.
No.
But I think probably because I was the youngest and I'm ready first. Yeah. I'm dressed, hair brushed, ready, sitting, waiting, and just watching the chaos. Then now in my adult life, if I'm trying to get my kids ready, and Harry in particular is just messing me about, I'm getting more and more anxious.
You're right back there.
Right back, yeah.
You're right back there.
Taking it on.
Yeah. And even in the moment, you don't really realise that's what you're doing, that you're actually, little Becky is actually coming out and coming through that moment. And this is what I mean, like, your inner child is there with you all the time. You are living as your inner child. I mean, listen, 95% of your thoughts, behaviours and actions are run from your subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So that means you're only in control, roughly, of about 5% of your decisions and your behaviours and your thoughts on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Which means that part of that subconscious mind, the programming in your subconscious mind that's running 95% of your thoughts and your behaviours and your actions have come from when you were a child. That program has been programmed in when you were a child. Which is why then it stands to reason and makes logical sense that you are mostly running behaviours as a child. Yeah. Because that's when the programming occurred.
Yeah.
So 5% of the time you might be acting on grown-up Becky. Well, unless, you've done the inner child work.
Yeah.
And then you're changing that in your subconscious. Yeah. And then, of course, more percentage is being run by adult Becky. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like I need to clarify that. The more work you do, your subconscious mind is always running 95% of your behaviours and your thoughts.
Yeah.
However, the more work you do on your inner child, the more that subconscious is going to be adult Becky, who has instilled the beliefs that she wants as an adult that's going to serve her and that are the truth, and less of that of little Becky.
Yes.
And we love little Becky, but she's picked up some things that we don't want her to have.
Yeah. So how would you get rid of that then?
Yeah.
Because obviously I can see that. I can see why I'm anxious about being late and I like to be early and sit outside and wait.
Yeah.
so I can see where I've picked that up from. How would I sort of maybe clear that?
Good question. Thank you. So again, this is what I do in my programs, both programs. This is the work. And so it's a journey. But when you're doing it in my program where we do it the deep work, we're doing the reprogramming, we're kind of working on two ways. So what we'll do is, first of all, we need to identify what's being triggered by little Becky, and work out what the behaviours are and get down to those kind of root beliefs, which you've already now done because you understand why. So we've identified that, great. Then we'd go back and we do this kind of the revisiting the past. And then let's just say, say you're my client, let's just say we've done the revisiting the past and this memory of you being sat like little Becky watching everybody while they're all running around like maniacs and you're just feeling more and more anxious because you're no one's paying attention to Becky because they're all running around, right? So you're telling me that memory in our regression, in our revisiting. So then this is where the inner child work comes in. This is where the reframing comes in. Right. So what we would do is I would ask you then, okay, so you've told me how you're feeling. I would want to focus on what was your overwhelming feeling. Now, I would assume you would say anxiety, you're feeling anxious because that's how you're feeling now, right? And that's how you were feeling then. Okay, so I would ask you where in your body you were feeling the anxiety. You would say, my chest, my hands. I don't know, stomach. Stomach for you. Everyone's different, and this is interesting because this is where everyone holds anxiety. Although I do see themes, and a lot of anxiety goes to the hands as well. Interestingly enough, especially I think maybe we have our main predominant feeling. Like my anxiety, I feel it predominantly in my chest. You feel it predominantly in your stomach, but I think if you really pay attention when you're feeling it, you'll notice there's other places, and this is the beauty of hypnosis, because when you're in hypnosis, you're so focused on yourself and within that you can then pay attention to where this is, and you also find that it moves around as well. Sometimes it will move from the chest into the hands, and then we can get it gone. Anyway, wherever we focus on where it is in the body, and then we do a process where we kind of just turn it up and then release it. We get it out of your body because that is storing. You have stored emotions, energy in your body that you've been holding on to for decades. So we need to get rid of that. So that's what we do first. Once those energies and the emotions have been cleared, bear in mind you're feeling it when you're in hypnosis, so we really actively get you to feel that anxiety. You'll feel it as if it's happening. Once we've cleared that, you can have a more clear view of the situation. And what I basically get like my clients to do is to have a look at themselves, almost pull out of themselves. So they're just seeing from an adult's point of view little Becky in that situation, and you can see it much more clearly because you're not in it. Like you can, for you, when you were in it, little Becky, it was traumatic and it was how you experienced it, but actually that's not necessarily the truth. So then I would say, right, so what can you take from this? What do you see after experiencing this? What learnings can you take from it? And you might say to me, oh, well, Becky wasn't in control. Like I wasn't in control at that point, and so I had no control over what I was doing. I felt really scared. Everybody was running around, but nobody was paying me attention. I felt very alone. That you could, it's amazing what you can come up with when you're doing that. So we come up with all your learnings, and then we'd say, right, okay, so what do you, that in itself, by the way, just gives you so much clarity because you're like, oh, it's not about me, or, oh, I am safe, or, oh, I see why I made it mean that, but actually that wasn't I can see now that wasn't the truth, because as children, we're very literal. We take things very literally. I told you that story about, I think we've spoken about in the podcast before, but, I did a regression with someone because she had lots of eating issues and anxiety and OCD. She had a lot of stuff going on. And one of her regressions came back down to that her dad had told her that if she didn't eat an apple or have fruit, she wouldn't be healthy. That little 5-year-old girl took that as if you don't eat your apple, you're going to die. So it developed, it was so, you're so literal, you know, because you don't have, as that young person, you haven't formed all the, like, the concepts, like, you can't form, like, those deep, complex kind of meanings and nuances. No. So everything is very literal. So then she spent the rest of her life with a belief that if she doesn't eat healthily, she's going to die, or if she doesn't eat an apple, she's going to die. Then there were other events that kind of went, like, on with that. And it spiraled and in the end manifested in her life as her marriage breaking down, really bad OCD habits, not, like, feeling so anxious and rigid and not being able to have any fun. Like, it was that she couldn't eat in front of people, she couldn't drink in front of people. No. She had strange eating behaviours, and it all stemmed from that one comment, which obviously, as an adult, she could see.
Comment,
yes, and something that a lot of parents say to their kids, but as a 5-year-old, she couldn't understand that. But very clearly, when we go back and revisit and look at that inner child, we can see, I understand why you made that meaning, but that's not true at all.
Yes.
So again, as I said, that in itself is just, like, can be really revelationary. Is that a word? Revelation?
Close. Revolutionary.
Is that the right word?
Revolutionary? Yeah.
It's revelation, like a revelation. Revelationary. Have I made up that word? Ooh. There you go. That's a new word. You know what I mean, though. Go on. So then after doing that, we then will equip little Becky with all the tools, resources, knowledge that she needed in that moment. So in that moment, that was traumatic for her. Her needs weren't met. That was locked in as a trauma cycle that you have been playing over and over again in your life since that moment. Yeah. Right. So our whole job is to break that trauma cycle. And we do that by releasing those feelings. So let your nervous system almost reset. Yeah. And then give yourself the tools. So, you know, I would ask you, what do you want to give Becky? And you might say, well, she needed a hug. Or she needed to say, it's fine. Don't, like, for you at that moment, you were probably, little Becky was probably thinking, this is the end of the world. If we're late, oh my God, something really awful is going to happen. Because again, you can't contextualize the situation. No. So you would want to give her resources to say, it's okay if we're late. Yeah. Nothing bad is going to happen if we're late. At that time, little Becky sat on the steps with her little pigtails and her little dress, watching everybody else like this, needed to hear, don't worry, Becky, it's okay. Yeah. We're all safe. Yeah. All is well. You're going to be fine. Don't you worry. Yeah. Got nothing to worry about. Yeah. Seems so simple, doesn't it? But that is what your inner child needs to hear. Yeah. And so you give it to her. Right. So we come up with all the things that she needed. And it's amazing the things that people, like, you know, want to give with their inner child. And it's that in itself is very emotional and very healing. A lot of the time you just want to give them a hug. Yeah. So we do all of that. So we really, really meet those needs of that younger Becky. And you have to remember, she exists. Yeah, she is within you now. And when you do that work in hypnosis, you feel it. You really do feel it. You have this connection with this younger version of you, and I think that's really powerful just to experience in and of itself, because you can never then walk away not knowing that little version of you exists. Yeah. You have that compassion and that love for her. And so we do that, and then we recreate the memory so with those new resources, with whatever you gave Becky, we'll recreate a memory that you can play out instead, an empowering one. Now you get to decide what that will be, and I love hearing what what people come up with and how it was different, and we really focus on how it feels, like how they felt in that situation, because obviously how you felt in that situation was very negative. It was like, you know, anxiety, fear, whatever. And so the main focus is that you come out of that feeling happy, safe, you know, loved, whatever it is you need in that moment. So again, we're meeting those needs and we are recreating a memory that you can replay instead of the old one that you are replaying every time you get triggered. Because you don't obviously realize you're playing that memory, but you are. Yeah. So we can create a new one, because that's the beauty of the subconscious mind. It is a computer, and we can reprogram it to what's going to serve us. And so then we do that. we do a load of like lovely stuff where you get to hug her and, you know, we get to see her looking, oh, she's all happy and she's bouncing around. And that's just nice. And then you get to know that she's always within you, you know, and that you are going to look after her.
Yeah.
You've got her. She doesn't need anybody else because you are always going to have her and look after her. And we take her away from that place. It depends what memory comes up. I do different things depending on, obviously, some things are not as nice as others, more serious than others. So we do whatever we need. Okay, so that's the inner child. Your original question, which started from us on this, was how would I help you do that? So once we've done that, you have done a lot of the work there. You've done a massive amount of work, and your subconscious mind will continue that work as you go on throughout your days and weeks afterwards, and it will kind of go through its filing cabinet and pick out any memories that link with what came up there, because there could be other situations. So that's the one you're aware of at the moment, but there could be other situations.
I think there's, you know, it was literally every time we went somewhere, so it could be so many.
And it might, yes, exactly right. So for that one, it's probably just linked to you being late. With the work that we're doing, obviously that's a very specific issue that you have given us there, which is brilliant because we can be specific with talking about it. But a lot of the time when people are coming in, it's not one specific issue. It's just, why am I a people pleaser? You know, why can't I speak up for myself? Why am I scared to say no when I really just want to say yes? That's very, you know, why? That's why we use hypnosis, because then we go back to a memory where that came from. But there's always going to be lots of other memories that are tied to that. And it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, it could be one memory you go back to and you said to your mum, no, I don't want to do that. And she smacked you and said, yes, you will do it. And the experience that came from that. But then there could have been another one where you were at school and you put your hand up to say an answer, you got the answer wrong and everybody laughed at you. So then you're saying, right, okay, so when I speak up, that feels really bad, that's embarrassing, that doesn't feel good, I don't want to speak up. And then you've got your mum, you know, when I say no, I get smacked and told off, that's a punishment. So now I'm going to say yes to everyone and I'm not going to speak up for myself. And this is how it all comes about, you see. Which is what I mean when I say your mind can kind of like come up. It will start doing that for you. So that's the beauty of it. We don't have to revisit every single memory that happened. We need to get to the core one, or at least one of those original root memories. And then your subconscious will do the work for you. Like I said, like going through its filing cabinet going, oh yeah, that links. Oh yeah, that links that. Okay, so what does that mean then? If that memory was wrong, and that those concepts were wrong, then that means all of these are wrong. Oh, right. So now what's right? And this is our next step. Okay, because your subconscious mind doesn't like a void. So if you take something away, so we've just basically taken away your anxiety around being late. We need to fill it with something. Because if we don't fill it with something, it will fill itself. And then it's a gamble as to whether it's going to be something that you want that's constructive or something that you don't want. So then this is where the second part of our work comes in, which is where we have to do the reprogramming. And so what we'll have done is, when we've got your kind of like beliefs and stuff, because I'm working with my clients and obviously I know them, obviously I know you, so I could do it with you as well. But I'll know what beliefs we need to instill and to replace what you believe. So for you, what I would do is I would then start reprogramming you, and this is where we use the hypnosis audio. I'd start reprogramming your mind to know that everything is always fine. Even if you're running late, everything will be fine. You are safe. You know, like those kind of things. There's plenty of time. You will always have enough time. You feel calm and relaxed at all times. I would kind of just, again, depending on what comes up in your actual inner child stuff, it all gets very, very much tailored to that one specific person, because we're all different and we all have very specific needs and And the great thing is that it all ties in with everything else. So like if we go back to the people pleasing thing example that I just said about not speaking up and not being able to say no, I'd be able to instill all those beliefs of, you know, you feel comfortable to speak up for your opinions. We'd go into all the self-worth stuff that it gets really, really deep. Again, yours is a very specific issue. Yeah. But that's great, because then I could be really specific with just hammering home that, you know, like, oh, you plan well in advance, or when other people are making you late, you realize that is their problem and not yours. You feel fine, even when people around you, even when there's chaos around you, you feel calm. And this is what I'm saying about how you could have things that might be related. So you're relating it to being late, but I wonder, how do you feel when everyone else around you is acting like headless chickens? How does that affect you? Does that make you feel anxious as well? Because if it does, it's probably stemming from that same thing, and therefore reprogramming your mind with the belief of that when everybody else is calm around me, chaos around me, I stay calm because I know I'm safe. Yeah. Because again, it comes back to that thing that we were talking about, you know, in previous episodes, where we are creating our reality internally. Everything is about how we feel internally. The external world is just a canvas, and it's neutral, and we make meaning of that world with how we feel. Yeah. So we just need you, like you said about your brother, he can be late and he's fine. Yeah. It doesn't affect his life. No. So the only, like, the cause of anxiety is you. It's me. And that's why the inner child work's so great, because we can go, hey, little Bex, don't worry about it. Like, let it go. And when she can let it go, you therefore can let it go. Yeah. And so that's how I would do that. Yeah. That's what I do in all of my work. Obviously, you already had that memory. You know it. You remember it consciously. Yeah. The great thing about hypnotherapy and inner child work is a lot of the time it's helping you to uncover the things you don't have conscious awareness of, that's in your subconscious. And they're the ones that you need to get to, because like I always say, you can't change what you're not aware of. No. That's why hypnotherapy is so clever, isn't it? Yeah. It's so powerful that it can unlock these memories that you have no idea about. Exactly. That you've forgotten all about. Exactly. So that's amazing. And also with the inner child, we were talking the other day, weren't we, about how, I don't know if it's like our age group. Yeah. But all the energy that's going on at the moment with the new world and all of that. But a lot of people like around us are having to look at that inner child, because a lot of from their childhood, a lot of the coping mechanisms that I guess they naturally put in place to deal with life going forward aren't working anymore. And we're finding, aren't we, of quite a lot of people around us, and even ourselves, are having to go back to that childhood to be able to come up with some better coping mechanisms, or to clear it, basically, isn't it? You don't want to cope, you've got to, people have got to get rid of it because it's not working anymore. Exactly. Yeah. So they're so right. It's a really good point, because a lot of the, you know, the things that we've picked up as children that our inner child is running now is for protection. It was something that you had to employ to protect you. So, I mean, if we go back to your example, I'm not sure whether, can you think, is there anything that you would do? Can you think that when you were anxious and everyone was kind of being late, is there anything that you would do in that time? Probably just went into myself. I was very quiet. Probably because everybody else was, you know, I've got two big brothers and they're late for everything, won't get out of bed, won't get ready, all of that. And I would imagine just went into myself and just sat quietly and hope for the best. Right, exactly. Okay, so perfect example then. So for you, your protective mechanism was, I'll go inside. Yeah. I can deal with this. Yeah. So you didn't ask for help. You didn't express that you needed help. So what's that going to turn into as an adult? You don't ask for help. You become a carer. You know, you rely on yourself, and you become feeling unsupported, unseen, unheard. Do you know what I mean? Like that again. Amazing how it snowballs, isn't it, to this much bigger thing. 100%. This is the thing. Like, people are always amazed that, you know, they come here with this mass array of issues that they've got that span their whole life, and when we pinpoint it down, it's to one tiny thing, like sitting on the stairs watching everyone in chaos because they're running late. And I see it time and time and time again, because like you said, it snowballs. And this is why it's like interesting, like what you said, how everyone around our age now, so around like the 40 mark, it's like those protective mechanisms worked for a while, you needed it, but then you actually don't need them anymore, but they stick around, and then they snowball, like we said, and they start, because you're making, you know, you have those beliefs, and because you have these behaviors, you attract more of it to you. That's the lens through which you see the world, and you'll experience more of it, because that's what your subconscious mind is setting you out to look for. So you're just reaffirming and reaffirming that belief until, well, that's it, that's just how life is. And then you're left with this kind of like life that is reflection of your triggers, of your trauma. And it's no wonder then you get to age 40 and you're like, well, my life is like midlife crisis for a reason, exactly. You know, like, well, where am I? How is my life like this? I'm unfulfilled. You know, there's no joy in my life. Something doesn't feel right, and yet I feel so stuck in my behaviors that I can't get out of it. And that's why. And that is precisely why. So yes, you hit the nail on the head. And then, you know, it either gets to a point, luckily now in the world that we're living in, this type of stuff, like we said in the beginning, inner child is now kind of trendy. You hear it more and more. People know what inner child is, and like what inner child work is, and maybe they don't know to the depth as we've just explained, but they have awareness of it. So, and with all the self-help books and the podcast and everything, you can start diving into it now, and people might be able to think, oh yeah, okay, I really need to look into this. Although the people that can't, then it snowballs, and then you probably hit some kind of crisis, like I did. That happened to me because I wasn't aware of all of this stuff. And then just as life happened, it snowballed out of control, hit a crisis, and then I was like, oh wow, now I understand. I have to go back and look at it. But you know, my hope in doing these podcasts and my social media and working with my clients is that I want to stop people from having to get to that crisis point where they have no choice but to address it. God, address it before you get there, you know. Be aware of it. Great, you can dive in. And you know, again, we've spoken about how I would deal with it in my programs and how I work with clients, but you can do it on your own. It's different. It's interesting actually. I was having this conversation with my client this morning. We were talking about one of her regressions, and we were also talking about how she's great. You know how I said earlier that your subconscious mind starts filing things and chucking them up for you. Oh, she's brilliant at that. You know, everyone has it, but she's great. Even when I'm talking to her, I can see her mind going, and she's like, oh, I've just had another memory come up. And they almost come out of like, no, but she hasn't thought about them for decades. And she'll just remember. Her mind's great at it. But we were talking about that. And I said to her, it's great that your mind can do that. And it saves us. Well, it's almost like compounding the work we're doing, because it means that we have to do less in the session because she's doing it outside of her sessions. And obviously, because I have contact with my clients outside, we can work through it even when she's not with me here. But I said to her, you know, while I was explaining to her what she should do when these memories come up, it's no good just going, oh yeah, that's great, and it does help, but then you have to go on. And so I was explaining to her it would be good for her to journal and do the things like I've just explained here on this podcast, do them for herself in the journal, give her inner child what she needed back then, meet her unmet needs. It's no good to just go, oh right, okay, yep, I've realized now that memory is why I don't feel good enough. You've got to then do something more and give it to her and make her realize that she is good enough. But so that's what I was saying to her. But then I also said, but think about it, that regression that we did last session, you wouldn't have been able to do that one on your own, would you? And she was like, oh no way, because it was a difficult one for her. She was struggling with me guiding her as well. And there is absolutely no chance she would ever have done that without me, because it would have come up and she would have just gone, oh, no, push that down. Yeah. I don't want to feel that. That's too uncomfortable. And it's these ones that are the key. You have to get those ones. The ones you don't want to feel are the ones that hold the key. And that's why it's helpful to have somebody like me to guide you through it, to almost hold you down and make you down. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't hold anyone down. I don't make anyone do anything they don't want to do. And I didn't bring that memory up. I didn't even know about it. No. She hadn't thought about it. It took her totally off guard. But the subconscious mind knows exactly what you need to see. And she had to see that memory. But again, and another thing is I said to her is, I said, with you doing this kind of inner child work at home, I said, where you struggle is where you have to see it a different way. So, you know, when I was saying to you, once you've released the feelings, how you pull out and look from an adult Becky's view of, oh, actually, what was the truth of that situation? Now, for your example, it's not like an awful, it's not a strong emotional pull. You know what I mean? Like, it's trauma for your body, don't get me wrong, but it's not a real strong emotion there. It's just like, you were anxious because you felt. So you can clearly pull, it's quite easy for you to pull out and say, oh, I can see why little Becky felt like that. There are some memories or events that are more difficult to do that with, because you're still so stuck in it, especially if people are still really stuck in their beliefs that just say for instance, they're not worthy, they're not good enough. It's really hard for them to be able to pull out and look back and go, oh, but you are. No, you are good enough. And that was just because of this. And I was saying to her, she would struggle doing that on her own, because a lot of the time I have to almost give her prompts to help her. I'm like, well, what about this, seeing it this way? And then she's like, oh yeah. And she struggles to do it on her own. So again, I just wanted to, I suppose, reiterate the point is that you can absolutely do this inner child work on your own, following what I've kind of outlined here, for sure. Also, you can go on, Instagram, social media, and type in inner child meditations or something. You can do all of that too. There's plenty of ways to do it. But I do think there is something to be said for, if you really want to do the deep, subconscious inner child work, it's worth going to see somebody who can get into your subconscious mind, whatever that looks like, but to get into your subconscious mind and help you and guide you and be that kind of zoomed out bigger picture if you can't do it for yourself at the start. So if anybody is interested in hearing more about it, then please feel free you can find me on social media. All my details are in the show notes, and just send me a DM and I'd be more than happy to have a chat, or you can book in a 20-minute free call, no obligation, just to chat through if, whatever's going on with you, I could help with as well. But I do encourage you to do the inner child work at home for yourself. And you can do do the conscious stuff. Start just, even if you start with what we were saying at the beginning, with finding what brings you joy. What did your inner child like to do? Even if it's like, oh, I love stamping in puddles. Go walk through a stream. Honestly, the amount of times I've just gone and walked with my wellies through the stream in our woods, it brings me so much joy. I cannot even say. And what a simple thing. Honestly, we just have to get more connected to our inner child in that respect. Just listen to what, painting was a massive one for me. I was just like, what does my inner child want to do? Oh, painting by numbers. I probably have said this on the podcast before, because it was really quite, I want to say that word again, revelatory. Is that it? Is that right? Revelatory? Can you guys come into the group and tell us, is that a word? Is it revelatory? Or is it what I said earlier, which I don't even remember? You said revolutionary, but I said, no, not revolutionary. Anyway, oh my God, please let us know. That it was such a big thing for me, because I was just like, okay, I'm gonna paint then. And the peace I got from that, the relief, the stress reliefs I got from that. And it wasn't just the act of painting, but I think it was the whole thing surrounding it, that, oh my gosh, like I can actually do something that has no productive gain. And I'm talking that like the washing or some kind of work, putting posts on social media, doing like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But to just do something that gives me pleasure for no other reason than getting pleasure from it.
Yeah.
And that kind of almost, wow, I'm doing this for myself. I've given myself time and permission to do that. And that was, that's so important. That's self-care, but it goes so much deeper than self-care. It seems like that's just such a fluffy word. It's everything. It's so important. If you want to build your self-worth, if you want to build your confidence, if you want to change your identity, your being, you've got to put yourself first. You've got to give yourself time like that. And the great way to do that is to focus really on your inner child and what your inner child is screaming at you to do. And just be curious. Just give it a go. If you think, oh no, I don't like that now. I went horse riding, didn't I? And then that was like 2 years of my life that just brought me so much joy. It taught me so many lessons.
Yeah.
Like it was perfect. And
do you think it's like when you're talking, it sounds like the inner child is basically you're talking to your soul or a part of your soul?
Yeah, I think...
almost.
I think yes, because if we then go back to when we were a child, what I say, we come into this world and we're perfect. We're that perfect ball of light, that glowing perfect ball of light with no limitations. We think we come in loving ourselves, and apart from if some stuff's happened in the womb already, that's kind of, but let's say you go into the womb, then you go into the womb with this perfect ball of light, this brightness, there's no limitations. That is for me, yes, I would say that is your soul. That is your soul. That's your true essence. And so you're closer to that as a child than you are as an adult, because there'll be obviously life's then happening to you, and already you're getting that kind of covered up with these limitations, with these experiences that start making you believe things about yourself. But you are closer to your soul. You look at kids; they know how to live, don't they? They if you let them be, they would eat when they needed to eat. Before experience start happening to them, which make them think they need to comfort eat or starve themselves or whatever that can happen. They will eat exactly what they need to eat. They'll eat the right things. They'll eat when they're hungry. They'll stop when they're full. They'll go out and run around barefoot in the outdoors. They want to be out moving their body, energy, healthy. They want to be having healthy play, connections. They're using their creativity. They're constantly learning without the worry or fear of failing. How many times do you see a baby when they're learning to walk fall over and they go, no, I'm not doing it, I'm too scared, I can't do it, I'll never be able to do it. They just get back up and walk again. Yes. So yes, in answer to your question, I do think in a little way that when you're connecting to your inner child, you're connecting to your soul. I think it's a really close way to get in touch with your soul. If you're trying, because again, I would say on this whole spiritual journey, the whole point is remembering who you are as a soul. It's remembering your greatness, your perfectness, your unlimited potential, you as a creator. And that's what I'm secretly aiming to do for all my clients when they come see me. Obviously, I don't say, come and find your soul, come and be your limitless self, but maybe I should, because that's what I'm doing. Even though I don't say that specifically to my clients, my whole aim when I work with them is to get them back connected to their soul, to who they truly are, to their pure potential, and realize that anything is possible for them. And that's why I included that in my 6-month program, because I just think that's so important. You need to do that. So the inner child is like a bridge to your soul. Let's put it that way. Thank you for that question. That was really nice.
I like the bridge to the soul. That makes so much sense as well. And it's almost the bridge that we crossed in the beginning when we got in touch with that fun side of being a child that led us to our soul. Because I don't think a few years ago I couldn't have even explained what my soul was. I wouldn't have been able to really, I don't know, my inner thoughts, I don't know.
So I agree with you.
But now I could possibly, I can explain it to myself in my head anyway. I feel like I could I'm in touch with it now.
I just think if I can give anyone any advice, try and imagine yourself as that kind of coming into this world as that perfect glowing ball of light, of pure possibility. And if you can always, I use that as my anchor for myself and for my clients, but I do use it for myself. I'm like, right, yeah, I am perfect.
Yeah.
It's something like amazing to be able to actually truly believe that you are in essence perfect. Now, I'm not saying I'm far from perfect as a human, but I am still perfect.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that those layers that have gone over from my experiences are hiding that perfection, or they're keeping that perfection dulled down.
Yeah.
But I have no doubt that it's there, that I'm sitting on it.
Yeah.
And it's just about peeling back those layers and always remembering and reminding myself that I am that perfect being, that I do have limitless potential, that I am a powerful creator. And that's a great anchor to have. And like you said, going back to the whole inner child thing, get in touch with your inner child. It's going to really help you take that step to finding out who your soul is. And again, like you said, I think that is probably that was a big part of us finding out and appreciating who our soul was, because, you know, this is what's called soul searching for a reason, isn't it? Before I got into the spiritual stuff, I realize now that I had already started searching for my soul by doing, you know, having the things that happened to me, and having to really look deep into myself, confront the worst parts of me, accept them, and then you realize that kind of helps you realize who you are as a person. When you can accept your shadow parts, your worst parts of yourself that you think are the worst parts of yourself, when you can accept them, is the key. I think that really helped me on my way. And then come along our spiritual journey after losing mum, getting in touch with that magic again, that inner child, it kind of came together like that, which is again why I will keep shouting it to the rooftops. If you're on a self-healing journey, a personal development, personal growth journey, if you are not addressing the spiritual side, you are missing a trick.
Yeah.
Because it is, I'm not going to say it won't work, but I have absolutely no doubt that my self-development, my self-growth journey has been quite fast, very deep and transformational already.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that's because at the same time, or just after, I came across the spiritual stuff, which was at the time for me completely separate, because the spiritual stuff was a way of me managing my horrific grief and getting me through a period of time, my lowest time. But then as I carried on, I realized, oh my gosh, this helps me with the personal stuff. It's the same.
So true.
Because when you've got that, again, I was having this conversation with my client this morning as well. When you have that overarching belief that there is a bigger force outside of this, outside of you, outside of all of this, that is loving you and is cheering you on and is helping you, that gives you the strength to push through those really hard times when you are trying to work on yourself here in a physical level. So for example, what I mean by that is, you know, those times when I was really in the early days, when I just thought, oh, I'm just not a good person, or, you know, I'm not enough. You know, there are parts of me that like, whatever. Sometimes it's really difficult to just know I am enough. I am enough. No, I am loved. But if you're in a situation where you truly don't have anyone around you where you feel like you are loved, which I'm sure so many people are, it's really, really hard to say I am loved when you're looking around you in your external world and say, no, but I'm not. Whereas when you have that belief in something bigger, when you can believe that there is someone or something, and beings there, or even your loved ones who you did maybe feel love from but have now passed away, if you can believe that they're still there, they still exist, and they still love you, that gives you the strength, the ability always, no matter what is going on in your external world. Now I'm just talking about feeling loved here, but this just fill in the blank, this can work for anything. Like when you have that to hold on to and you believe it and you trust in it, that gives you the strength to push through.
Yeah, definitely.
Until your external world can start mirroring it, or until you are strong enough to be able to feel that love for yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's the getting, feeling that love for yourself.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have to feel it or need it from other people. It's lovely to have it, but the key is for you to be able to give it to yourself and feel it to yourself. Yeah. But until you get to that point, if you're at a place in your life at the moment where you can't feel love for yourself for whatever reason, during your self-development, your personal growth, your inner healing journey, if you can work on that spiritual aspect and start looking into that, listen to our podcast, listen to all the other podcasts, read spiritual books, to try and build your belief in a bigger force than you.
Yeah.
And that force is loving and loves you and just is cheering you on like you would never believe. And it's powerful and it can help you more ways than any human being could potentially help you. Oof. That is when you'll just go, phew.
Yeah.
I know that's why I am where I am now. I wouldn't have been able to do it without it, which is why I'm so passionate about bringing this kind of psychology stuff with the hypnotherapy and the self-help that I do with my clients, but also bringing in the spiritual with it as well. Because when I wasn't talking about it, I felt like I was almost hiding something. I felt like I was gatekeeping information. It felt wrong to me that I wasn't talking about the spiritual side. I almost felt a bit like a hypocrite, because I was thinking, how can I tell them, like, no, this all works, this is great, this is going to work for you, when I know there was a whole section that stuff would not have worked for me so well if I hadn't have been on the spiritual journey. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So again, that's a bit of a tangent, but it does still come back to doing this inner child work. What you said about how the inner child is kind of closer to your soul, and you know what you came in this world wanting, because we all come in as different little souls. That's why some children love playing in the mud, and some people love sitting in and reading their books, like me, reading their fairy books and being in a world immersed in magic. That's what I would do. Because we come in as little souls already. We've got our things that we're good at. We've got our gifts and our abilities. From a young age, I was clearly meant to be working, with knowledge, and that was my thing. And I lost that. But when I go back and I really was looking at my inner child and what did she do and what did she like and what gave her joy, and then I remembered that I would go out and look up at the stars and just think, what is out there? There's got to be something more. Contemplating these really massive questions at such a young age.
Yeah.
Of course I was always meant to be doing this.
Yeah, of course.
Of course I was, but I had no idea until I looked. My eyes twitching now. But I had no idea. No. And when I started looking back at my inner child, it's what helped me find hypnotherapy, because I was like, right, let's look back. Oh, right, okay, yeah. I've always wanted to help people. I've always been a carer. I've always got joy from helping people. It's something that I do without even realizing it. I'm the person that people come to for help, and I seem to be able to make them feel better, and I'm not even trying. It's easy to me, it comes naturally to me. And then that's when I was like, right, okay, so it brings me joy, I'm good at it, why am I not doing that? and if you guys look into your inner child and look at what you did as a child, and what brought you joy, what you were interested in, what fascinated you, you'll find the answer to what you should be doing now, whether that's for work, for your career, or whether that's just as a hobby. It doesn't matter. Just go and do it. Just do it and see where it leads. Trust the magic.
Love that.
I take a breath. When I take a breath, I know I'm done. I'm done. It's finished. It's over. Oh, thank you, Becky. Thank you for your wonderful example. That's brilliant. It was so great to have that example, wasn't it? To be able to work through.
Yeah, it's just and it's probably quite a common, just everyday one, isn't it? That can actually have quite a big effect on you in later life. Very, very interesting.
So everybody go out now and just go talk to your inner child, see what she wants or he wants to do, what lights you up.
What's easy as well. It's when I realised that, it's what feels easy for you, isn't it?
Exactly. That it is. It's what feels natural.
Yeah.
What's easy, what flows, what just gives you that joy. And you might be sat there thinking, but I don't know what gives me joy. Hence, go back to your childhood. Just think. And the more you think about it, the more things, like I said to you, like with the whole looking up at the stars and contemplating that, and reading things about ancient Egypt, and being interested in things like Atlantis and the mystical stuff. And now as an adult, I see why. Like now it makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
But you've got to go deep. Don't just think, oh, well, I used to like to play with dollies. You know, go deeper than that. Yeah. Go deeper. It's great because it might give you some ideas to get started with. But,
definitely,
but you want to get deeper.
Because then you think, well, why did I like playing with dollies? Yes. Oh, I've always wanted to be a mother. Yeah. I was, or, make people look beautiful. Exactly. It's just goes deeper and deeper, doesn't it?
Always go deeper. Yeah. When you get an answer, then go, why?
Be curious.
Be curious.
As my Tashi always tells me.
I need to get that tattooed on my arm. Be curious. On my hands, be curious. But anyway, on that note, we're going to have to go now.
We're going for tattoos.
Yes, we are. I'm just going right down biro. Sharpie. Okay, right, we're going now. Thanks, guys, for listening. As always, if you enjoy the show, please, we'd so appreciate it if you share it with other people who you think might find this useful or helpful. If you haven't already, we would so appreciate a review, a 5-star review, if you want. 5-star review. And head on over to our Facebook group and join a conversation there.
Yeah.
That's all we have to say.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Lots of love.
Lots of love, guys. Go find that inner child. See you later.
Bye.